Communication Air.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Communication Air podcast. This is the communication. Oh my god, the community. This is a different time. I'm screwing up. That's right. This is a community patch notes episode of the future of Nintendo, and we talked about some RPGs. But before we get into it, we have a very special guest. You probably have seen him all over X, Twitter, seen the financial data, RPG love. We got Stealth40k. How are you doing, Stealth?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be, around like-minded Nintendo fans.
I don't know if you're going to be thinking that by the end of it, but
yeah, we'll see. But like, how did you become Stealth? Like, who is Stealth40k? How did this happen?
Yeah, Stealth40k is just a person who, loved video games, loved Nintendo, loved RPGs, but, didn't really have a lot of people around me in my personal life who, enjoyed video games. So, like many of us, we kind of joined social media to, branch out and see who else is out there. And that's pretty much my origin story.
Nice. Yeah. Were you the first to post like financials? It kind of seemed like you were, and then others have kind of jumped on it. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I'm it's never a good idea to say that you're the first to do anything because then someone will come out of the woodwork and prove you wrong. So I'm absolutely sure I was not the first person to talk about, Nintendo financials or look up the Amazon bestsellers or anything like that. But I do find it interesting because, Switch is so popular. It's such a huge system. So like, what games are trending and, where things are going. I've always found that interesting.
Yeah. Well, you're a big number guy. Johnny's a big number guy.
Yeah.
I was in the No Kid Left Behind program, so I need some help with numbers. But
I even got calculator on Switch. I need the numbers. But I mean, I've been following you for a long time. I think, and you've done very well since I started following. And I'm always like, all right, what is happening in the Nintendo world? I'm gonna check Stealth's tweets and go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, when it comes to like the financials, Nintendo just provides the most. Sony might give you like the bestseller of the time and then the console sales. Xbox really won't give you anything in terms of like hard numbers sold. But at least with Nintendo, we have hardware, software, and then like a bunch of games that they give updates for. So that's really why I started covering it, is because they just gave more.
Yeah, I love financial data time. I don't know why. Like, I just get excited every quarter. I'm like, yes, this is we're getting some good stuff.
Yeah, but even more than the financials these days, I'm looking forward to like the investor decks, which are like really cool PowerPoint presentations that have more context and more data. And the one that we got this time was actually very, very interesting.
Yeah, was that new? Was that a more in-depth thing that they did this time, or?
It's not a new thing, and they don't do it every quarter. I believe they do it at the 6 month and at the year end. I could be wrong about that. But no, it isn't new. But like, yeah, the one that they did this time just seemed to have more like fancy visuals and things like that versus just the numbers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since we're getting into it, I just want to keep talking. We usually do like server maintenance here, which is just like follow our socials. Give us reviews, 5-star reviews, all of that. But yeah, that's the spiel. What did you get out of the financials that going forward? Like, was there anything that was that I don't know struck a chord with you?
Yeah, so I thought the most interesting and illuminating thing that actually came out of the financials was the fact that, if things keep going this way, software-wise, this could be like the second best year of the Switch in terms of Nintendo first-party games sold. And we're year 7 here, so that's kind of crazy. This is the second best year. So it kind of makes it clear now why Nintendo is trying to drag out the Switch generation as long as possible because, like, hardware sales have peaked, and they peaked a few years ago, but software sales, Switch owners are still buying software like crazy. So it's why Nintendo has a kind of a tricky road to kind of navigate. Okay, they probably are going to introduce a new system next year. I think most people kind of think they will. But then how do you keep selling Switch software to that, 100 and maybe at that time 140, 50 million install base? So that's their problem. But yeah, I thought the fact that the software wise, Switch is as successful as ever, that was the craziest thing to me.
Yeah, that was mostly like Tears of the Kingdom, and I mean, Pikmin's the best selling in its series. Mario Wonder is doing phenomenally well already. It's like the fastest selling Super Mario Bros. Game, I think. And it looks like RPG is probably going to sell really well too. So,
yeah, I mean, our RPG is interesting. It's number 1 on the US eShop. It's not number 1 on the Japanese eShop. And even on Amazon Japan, Super Mario RPG isn't number 1 because potentially a bigger game is launching that same week. New Momotaro game from Konami. And if you didn't, and so the last Momotaro game was a few years ago, and Konami sold like 3 million units of it in just Japan on Switch.
Wow.
So it's a huge game, and it's launching the same week as Mario RPG. So if you look on the Amazon Japan charts, it's Momotaro 1 and then Mario RPG 2. And then if you look on Amazon US right now, it's interesting, and it's weird because whenever it's on sale, it like does stupidly well, is Mario and Mario plus Rabbids. That's actually number 1 right now on Amazon.
Yeah, it's like $20, isn't it?
It's like $20, yeah. And then number 2 is Super Mario Wonder, and then number 3 is Mario RPG. But on the US eShop right now, Mario RPG is number 1. So it should do very well. Like for most people, it's a brand new game.
I never played it before.
Yeah, me neither. It's been a blast though. It's been so fun, and like as far as Game Award nominations go, I don't know like what the qualifications are. We have Resident Evil Remake that is being nominated or Resident Evil 4 that is being nominated for Game of the Year. RPG is beautiful. The music is great. I think it has a lot of charm. It's I know it's an older game, but it does feel fresh. Like this is a way that I want to play Mario games that just have so much personality and like silliness to them that we kind of have been lacking. Like I think Wonder was a good step in the right direction to get kind of back to, I don't know, like crazy looking characters and just some of the funny dialogue. And I'm excited that we're going to get that with A Thousand Year Door as well. But yeah, I've been loving it. And I'm kind of sad that it missed out on nominations if it could get nominated.
From what I understand, it was actually like the very last game to potentially be considered. But it just wasn't going to replace anything in that show, I guess. I don't exactly know where it could have been nominated. Maybe RPG, maybe. But yeah, it's just fantastic. It's still an SNES game at the end of the day, so it's not as complex as Thousand Year Door is and many other RPGs on Switch. But it's just fun. It's just a good time.
That's what I like about it, because I'm simple. Like when I play some of these RPGs, they get overly complicated. I'm like, just let me like read some dialogue and then do this battle system. I understand it. There's not a ton of like, I don't know, Xenoblade always confuses me. There's just so many mechanics.
Yeah, that's like on the other end of the spectrum. That's like the most complicated battle systems and RPGs usually get. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Super Mario RPG 2. Yeah, I mean, I've played it over 5 times, but not within the last like 10 years. So like it's still like I still know everything, so like the game isn't a surprise for me. But what I'm enjoying is just seeing how things have changed, and just going through it again. It's just a blast.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back after I'm done. I mean, I'm probably not going to do this, but I want to, after I'm done with the remake or the remaster, I want to go back to the SNES version and see what's different. I'm assuming like the active like button presses weren't in the original.
They were.
Oh, were they? Okay.
It was actually what I mean. I'm sure games did it, but it kind of got very popular because of Super Mario RPG. And then it kind of proliferated with the other Mario RPGs. And you kind of mentioned that's the one thing I wish it had. I actually kind of wish not only did they include the Super Nintendo version in the package, but like kind of maybe like Dragon Quest 11, where you can kind of like switch between them. Yeah. Because it's pretty one-to-one anyway. So it's like, how cool would it be if you like pressed a button and then all of a sudden like it just shifted to like the Super Nintendo version? I thought that could have been cool if they wanted to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why. I thought that was an option, and when I pulled up the start menu, I was like looking for it, and I guess the only thing that you can change is the original music. So yeah, that's fun to like go back and listen to that, but to see how far they've come and how different it looks, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it was the last RPG Square released in America. They did release a few other ones on Super Famicom in Japan. But this was really like the last game and kind of like the culmination of everything. Like, Chrono Trigger had come out, Final Fantasy VI had come out, and Super Mario RPG was kind of like the culmination of that relationship. And so it's kind of fitting that we're getting it on Switch because, Square supported Switch quite a lot.
Yeah.
So it just it feels good just to have a new physical edition that's just easily available. I wish I had that for more SNES games.
Do you think that this might reinvigorate that partnership that Square and Nintendo had back in the day?
I mean, I feel like it's happened already. Especially with Smash Brothers. Like, there's tons of Square Enix content in Smash Brothers. Like more than, it's surprising how much, considering Square is not always fond of putting their stuff in other companies' games. And then they've just supported Switch like crazy. So I feel like this is just the culmination of the relationship that's kind of just building back up again, and hopefully we'll see for the Switch successor.
Yeah, I mean, Geno is guaranteed, right, for the next Smash, like at this point?
I don't want to say guaranteed because nobody knows what Sakurai is going to do and what characters Nintendo is going to want him to put in.
Yeah.
But certainly, like from a fan perspective, I'm sure he's going to be highly requested as usual.
Yeah. Well, we did get a couple of questions on Smash since you brought it up. Flea on Discord said, okay, you guys asked for it. I agree with Cheesy that with items in all stages and with Smash Balls is the way that Smash Bros. Is supposed to be played. But I agree with John Ebo that Smash is terrible that way. And the best way to enjoy Smash is to pit player versus player in a battle of skill without all those RNG elements. And I think Nintendo's unwillingness to appreciate that they made a good game that is perfectly serviceable without all those party elements is frustrating. I guess I'm just grateful that you can turn all that stuff off. They could have taken it a step further and forced everyone to play with all that stuff enabled all the time. Though I believe that had they done that, Smash would absolutely not be as popular as it is. Nintendo always knows what the players want. Do you play with items? Do you do Omega stages? Like, how do you play Smash Bros?
See, I actually play Smash both ways. If I have people around, I'm going to play it with, all the items on and everything. And sometimes even just by myself online. And then other times, I'll want to do it without. And that's what makes Smash Brothers good is you have options.
Yeah.
You can do it however you want. And so I think that's the point.
Yeah, I think that because I think Cheesy said something about how with all the items that's how you're supposed to play it, but I don't think there's any way you're supposed to play. Just like time traveling in Animal Crossing.
Come on, man. We didn't have to bring that up. We weren't talking about Animal Crossing.
There's no wrong way to play like these games. And I think that's what's great about Smash Brothers and about Animal Crossing, that there is no right way to play.
Do you time travel in Animal Crossing? How do you play it?
I didn't actually time travel in New Horizons. I did time travel in New Leaf a little bit.
Oh, interesting. What was the deciding factor there?
I think I wanted to see there was some holiday I wanted to see, and just how they would do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I don't do it often. When I first buy an Animal Crossing game, I try to play it legitimately for like a while, and then I'll do it. But look, again, I'm not at the police on how people want to play games. If people want to time travel, let them time travel.
Yeah.
Cheesy. Let them time travel.
No, okay. Listen, I've learned a lot from this show, and like, there's a lot of gatekeeping just in general when it comes to gaming. I think that there are certain things. I think when it comes to Animal Crossing, time travel wasn't a thing that was supposed to be allowed. When you're playing Smash Bros, it's a game that is celebrating gaming and has all these fun items from other series, and like, it's a party game according to Sakurai, but then it's also has become a fighting game. So like, I get over time people can change and play the way that they want to play. Even if I guess disagree with, how it started, that's, you just have to adapt to change, right? So
anyway, we're growing here. We're growing. Yeah. We're becoming better people.
Because your opinion might not be
because my opinion was right that time, so it counts.
So with Animal Crossing, what does the future look like for Nintendo's? I guess it's Big Five now, because they have Mario, Zelda, Splatoon, Animal Crossing, and Pikmin.
Wait. We discussed this last time. We couldn't. Why? I think Fire Emblem is number 5. You think Pikmin's number 5? Stealth, what do you think is their 5th pillar?
Do they have one?
I actually don't think it's either of those, and they might not have one. Like, yeah. I consider it like, if your latest 2 entries have sold 10 million units,
okay,
you're in. So it's Mario, it's Zelda, Party. It's Pokemon, it's actually maybe Luigi's Mansion now. It's that big. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Pikmin is getting more recognition, which is great. Fire Emblem is the biggest strategy RPG series, which is great, but neither are on the level of like Nintendo's biggest heavy hitters: Smash, Mario, Pokemon, Zelda, and stuff like that.
I threw Pikmin in there because it just seems like it's, Miyamoto's baby. We also have some Pikmin that are around Nintendo World, if you're looking there.
And Pikmin 4 is great, so I think more people should play the Pikmin series because they are fantastic games.
I mean, they're definitely pushing the series, but it's still pretty niche comparatively. There's nothing wrong with that. Hopefully it'll get bigger.
Well, so are we going to see new IPs going forward? We talked about this last week, and IPs in general, just across the board, gaming, movies, TV, whatever. It's really hard because, you put all this time and effort and money into an original idea that doesn't do well. And then, that's why we see so much of the same thing. Are we going to see more new IPs from Nintendo?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think new IPs are cool, and, I think older IPs are cool too. The thing with Nintendo fans are, they scream about wanting new IP all the time, but then the second they don't do a new entry in an old series, they scream bloody murder. So it's like they're not happy either way. And Nintendo has a lot of old series that they have to like hit every system. So it doesn't leave a lot of bandwidth for new IP all the time. Obviously they've actually been pretty successful with a few new ones they've had. Obviously Splatoon on Wii U, very, very successful. Even like Ring Fit Adventure, probably going to get a sequel. Not exactly what most might consider like a traditional Nintendo IP or even a traditional video game for its premise. But it sold over 10 million units. So yeah, I think with any new Nintendo system, we are going to get some new IP. How many get big? I guess we'll find out and what they want to do. With Switch, there were new IP, but the most successful games were the old IP. And the fact that Super Mario that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has sold almost 60 million units as a port of an old game, kind of shows like just because it's a new IP or just because it's an old IP doesn't mean it's going to sell good or bad. It depends what people want. So I think we will. I think we will on the new system, and I guess the best place we'll see it is like whenever we get that Switch successor showcase.
Yeah.
That'll have a bunch of game reveals. We'll probably see something.
Yeah, I think we always talk about how we're kind of like in this bubble. We're in the main, I don't know, hardcore gamer side of it. We don't really know what the casual, larger audience, because that's a huge part of the Nintendo audience is the casual audience. You don't really know what they want, because I know a lot of people want F-Zero, but like it's not gonna sell that well.
Yeah, I mean, F-Zero is interesting because Miyamoto has said like they're not against bringing it back, but like they want to do something new with it. And then I guess the counter argument is like you do a lot of sequels that aren't completely different than games you've done, so why not just do it? I think because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is so successful, it's like they just have no desire to do a new racing game. Yeah. Like they didn't even have a new desire to make a new Mario Kart, and they could have on Switch if they wanted to, but they didn't want to like impede 8 Deluxe. So yeah, like F-Zero was interesting. I would love to see F-Zero come back. But again, like, do you do it before or after Mario Kart 9 or whenever the next Mario Kart is? It's like, it's just, it has to be something very, very special. And especially if we're assuming the next Switch is going to be like PS4 level kind of visuals, which still look beautiful. That might be a good time to bring F-Zero back as like a visual marvel kind of showpiece for Switch. But yeah, I definitely think, and even Kid Icarus, is that going to come back again? We just don't know. Pretty much all Nintendo series on Switch have done better than they ever have. Almost all, not WarioWare. People seem to be over kind of like the mini game thing, unless it's Mario Party. But yeah, I think we're gonna see like a good mix of some new and old stuff.
Yeah, I mean, is it weird to you that it seems like Nintendo hasn't taken a chance on their older IPs because of how well everything sells on Switch? You think that it would be a home run for them to just try something new, or like I've been saying I would love a new Ice Climbers game where it's like kind of It Takes Two, maybe it's a couch co-op and you are separated and you have to get back to each other climbing the mountain, or there's different puzzles or whatever it is. I think that kind of idea could work with new visuals. But obviously they probably are always checking that kind of stuff and are like, yeah, this isn't going to do as well as people think.
Yeah, and Nintendo has tried with a few things like Advance Wars.
Yeah.
And then upcoming I forget the Another Code collection.
Yeah.
That's coming in January. Those a DS and a Wii game that they're trying again. And then of course they did do the was it the Famicom Detective series? They actually brought that back. So they have brought some things, but I don't think I think the last Star Fox was received so poorly that they're just kind of like, let's sit on this for a while. Let's not do anything with it. And it's tough because Nintendo has done a pretty good job of like every year like having a really big publishing lineup, but like they also want to sell games too, so they have to balance up between like the games they know are going to sell and the ones that are probably not going to do as great. Like this year, we had Fire Emblem actually sold very well. It was sold, I think 1.5 million copies at least, but not like a huge seller. They probably could have waited on the next Fire Emblem if they wanted to, but they decided to do another one. But yeah, I mean, again, it's always difficult, because there's always like one series that's going to get left out, and then people are going to point to, hey, how come you didn't bring this? How come you didn't bring this series back?
The one that I'm surprised on is Donkey Kong. Like, where is Donkey Kong?
Yeah, I do think. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Retro is working on. We think still Metroid Prime 4,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, we hope. So maybe they don't have the bandwidth to do a third Donkey Kong. I'm sure there's another team in Nintendo that could. Yeah, and obviously, you know, Mario vs. Donkey Kong that's coming in February is a very good game. It's actually very, very good. It's a puzzle game, but it's not new, and it's not really a Donkey Kong platformer. So it's not exactly the same thing. But yeah, I do agree that like we're due for one, and like the rumors that had the 3D Mario team making a Donkey Kong game didn't help. Who knows how true that is? I don't think it's true. But yeah, I do think it is time to like bring a new Donkey Kong again. And who knows? You know, it might happen next year. We only know like probably, you know, a third of Nintendo's lineup for next year.
Especially with the movie and Donkey Kong being so popular from the movie. I just thought, yeah, I'm just surprised that we haven't seen it. I think they are holding some of their games for the next system. Like they've had to be working on a Mario Kart for 9 years. Like there's no way they haven't.
I mean, I'm sure they have Mario Kart and the next 3D Mario already done. I'm pretty sure. Because they've been just working so long, we don't know what they've been working on. You know, I'm sure they've been because that's what Nintendo does is they'll stockpile like finished games and then like slot them in strategically. And sometimes it's a year later, when it actually comes out. So yeah, I'm sure Nintendo was like making games for the next system already.
Yeah, they probably. I think we talked about this. How the Switch's launch year, they released a Nintendo published game. I think every month of that year.
Almost every. I think
almost,
it was almost
every month. Yeah. So and that was successful for them. So I'm assuming they're trying to prepare for that since that formula worked the first time.
Yeah.
Obviously, marketing is going to be a big thing that they're going to have to, you know, look out for when it comes to the new system, whatever it is, because Wii U had a marketing problem. If you go back and watch that trailer, they say new controller 9 times, but they don't mention that it's a new console, not even once. So what are some things that you think that they are already trying to avoid for the system to be successful?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest misnomer for a system success is for launch, you need a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
You actually don't need a lot of games, you know, at launch. You need one great game. That's it. And then you need more games later on. You need, you know, a game a month. You know, so like having Zelda that first month and then having Mario Kart the second month was it. You know, having 20 games at launch doesn't do a whole lot of good as we found out. For many systems actually. So, you know, I think it has to have a huge game. I think most people think it's going to be a 3D Mario. That would be a system seller for me. I would run out and buy the system for that. And then do they have like a new Mario Kart the next month? Do they have something else? Like what's that first year lineup going to look like? Like the launch lineup isn't as important as the year lineup. So that's kind of what they're going to have to work on, or hopefully they are working on it.
And they have to make sure the naming is under control too. So
yeah,
I mean, if it is going to be another Nintendo Switch, I know they're probably not going to do this. Just call it a Switch 2, but they'll probably call it.
In this case, I think it's going to be reversed. Like, so Switch had a new Splatoon and an old Mario Kart. I think the next system is going to have a new Mario Kart and then Splatoon 3 Deluxe or something like that is going to get ported. I don't think they're going to have a new Splatoon at launch, but I do think Splatoon 3 is going to have an enhanced version. And so, yeah, we'll be looking at, and, you know, people have said it, and I kind of have been growing on the idea is like, you also, you know, need kind of like a big third party, like, wow, I can't believe this is coming to a Nintendo system. And I think it could be Elden Ring. And that's just my prediction. Like, I think that could be like the Skyrim of like the showcase for like the third party. It's like, oh wow, I can't believe like a From Software game is coming to Switch, or the successor. So I think that's just my prediction for like the big third-party game.
Yeah.
But I also think like Japanese third parties are going to support Switch 2 a lot quicker than they did Switch, and with a lot more, because now they know like Switch has been #1 in Japan since it launched, basically. So now they know like it's like unless Nintendo royally screws up, Switch 2 is going to be huge in Japan. So like I think like third party support is going to be like a lot more impressive. Like we aren't going to see like Capcom bring out like Super Street Fighter 2, like another version of Street Fighter 2.
Maybe you never know though.
Maybe, but I think they might actually make Street Fighter 6 for
I can see that.
But like I feel like just the level of third party is going to be higher on the successor. I'm just making it a little bit easier. Because Switch. I mean, Nintendo really carried that first year for Switch. They carried it. Third parties didn't have much of anything, and then it was successul, and then they came.
Yeah, and I think Phil Spencer even said that they were going to bring Activision games to this Nintendo console, or there was that deal out there that it was like guaranteed for like Call of Duty to come to a Nintendo console in the 10 years. Well,
we all know that Phil Spencer actually wants Microsoft to buy Nintendo. Like that's right. That's the dream.
Yeah. I don't know, Nintendo games on Game Pass. It's pretty appealing.
But so they've had a very successful era with their IP, and they have a theme park. They're making movies. They have collaborations with a lot of different companies. Is there anything that you want to see going forward from Nintendo that we haven't yet, or things that they can improve on with what they're already doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to like continue on what they're already doing. Like their marketing is solid with like the directs, and they've had like really good publishing lineups. And they have partnered with a lot of studios like Namco. They've made games together. Koei Tecmo, they've made a bunch of games together. Platinum Games, they've made a bunch of games together. So, and actually speaking of Platinum Games, it's like I really want Astral Chain 2. So that like better be very soon after Switch 2 launches. Like,
you think Nintendo would ever buy Platinum?
I think Nintendo would only ever buy Platinum if there was serious threat that someone else would. I think that's it.
Kamiya's gone,
they don't
right?
want to lose their partner. Kamiya's gone.
Yeah.
I think they would, if there was like another serious buyer out there, like just to protect their partner. But yeah, I don't think they would ever just like outright buy them just because there would have to be some kind of reason. And I would want Platinum to stay independent.
Well, you were talking about Koei Tecmo, and like one of my games that I would love to see, I would first just love to see a Splatoon spinoff, but I would love to see like Splatoon Heroes. And I know there's not like a lot of characters there, but the Great Turf War, I think, would be so fun for us to learn about and to see how all that happened. Kind of the same way as Breath of the Wild or Triforce, or what was it called?
Age of Calamity.
It was Age of Calamity. Yeah.
You see, I'll take it in a different direction. I would love a Splatoon spinoff, but I would want it to be a strategy game. Like I think like a strategy RPG Splatoon with like different unit classes and things like that could be very fun. And then I forgot my train of thought there.
Well, so going off of that, I also thought it would be really fun if they did it with the Rabbids. Like I kind of thought that was going to be a series on its own where the Rabbids are going to different like Nintendo properties and kind of like copying them. I think it would be fun to have the Rabbids acting like Inklings or Captain Cuttlefish. They kind of did that with, I guess, Cranky Kong a little bit, but having them think that they can swim through ink, or like I think it just the humor there would have worked really well. I'm sure Ubisoft is going to support Switch 2, like because they always support like the new systems. What I was thinking is, I would like a new Warriors game, but I think Xenoblade Warriors would work really well. Yep.
You know, you get all those characters, all those classes, and, you know, I think that could work good. You know, I think the relationship between Nintendo and Koei Tecmo is underrated. Like every game they've worked on together has been a million seller, every one. So it just works really well. Hopefully that continues on.
I mean, I think that it would be wrong of us if we didn't talk more about RPGs since we brought you on. So if there's somebody that doesn't play a lot of RPGs, or they don't understand it, or like, are there starter games that you would start with or introduce them to?
Yeah, I mean, I think Super Mario RPG Remake is like the perfect one, and it just came out. You know, it's the combat system isn't complicated. It's a very linear game. You can't really get lost. You're kind of pushed in one direction. Customization is pretty minimal, but it's fun. It's not complicated, but it's fun. And it's not a long game at all. You know, it can be beaten in well under 50 hours. So it's not like an overwhelming, you know, time commitment like the Xenoblade games are, like many Square Enix games are. So, you know, I think if I had to tell someone to start with one game, and this was the same case with the SNES, you know, people, you know, obviously it had Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger, both more complicated than Super Mario RPG at the time. And Super Mario RPG got a lot of people into RPGs that weren't just because it was Mario. And just because it's Mario again can push people to like play a genre that they might not have otherwise. You know, like even back during the SNES days, like I didn't play any of the racing games, but I played Mario Kart because it had Mario characters.
Right.
So I think Super Mario RPG is really like the perfect entry level RPG now.
Why does Stealth like RPGs? Like, what is it that you love about them so much? Because I mean, I don't know anybody else that loves RPGs as much as you do. And for me, myself, like I have played RPGs. I haven't played enough of them to really appreciate them. And when I do, they usually surprise me. So I think I'm maybe starting to like them, but I don't think that they have fully grabbed my attention. What is it that you like about them?
So, you know, obviously, you know, they have, at least the ones I like, you know, the all-time classics have great stories and great music and likable characters and emotional moments and things like that. You know, I guess I've always liked just the experience of like leveling up, like increasing your stats, getting stronger. It's just a weird, satisfying thing to like level up and see your stats go up, and then you're just stronger. So that's really what I've always liked about it. And it's funny because when I first started gaming, obviously, you know, RPGs were kind of beyond me. I think they're beyond most younger gamers. So, you know, platformers and fighting games I liked a lot. But, you know, then I started playing Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest and things like that, with you know, kind of deeper / different gameplay. You know, the stories were obviously still basic back then, but the music was good. It was really during like the SNES era that I started to just really love RPGs. And yeah, I mean they're my favorite genre just because I love just getting lost in new worlds and exploring and collecting and all that goes with it.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm surprised that you're enjoying RPGs right now or Mario RPG because you're not a big story guy, and that is
it doesn't have what I mean. All right, so it doesn't really have that much story.
No, but I mean, there's a lot of dialogue that you have to get through when it comes to RPGs.
Not a ton. Like I've played games like Xenoblade, and that is much more narrative heavy. I've played more narrative heavy games than Super Mario RPG. I mean, I have been enjoying like the dialogue. I think it's charming, and like there's a part where I don't know if this is spoilers, but when one of the characters finds out he's not a tadpole, and they all like what?
Yeah.
I thought that was very charming. So I thought I think the writing is very good, and it does. I mean, you could tell that Square had its fingers in it, but it does feel like a Nintendo game. And like Stell said, it's not complicated like some of the other RPGs, so I could get into it. I mean, who knows? I'm hoping I'll get through it. I mean, I'm only 3 hours in right now, so we'll see if I could stick with it.
I think I cut you off though. You were going to say something.
Me? Oh,
yeah.
With the Switch being like, I feel like the Switch is the renaissance of RPGs. And I think you even maybe tweeted, I think we used your graphic that you tweeted that had like all of the RPGs on the Switch. And are you thinking the future is bright for RPGs? Like, is it going to be less niche 5 years from now?
I mean, I think there are some games that will always be niche, just because, and some that will just rise up. But yeah, I do think, Switch is the best system for a Nintendo for an RPG fan ever. Obviously PlayStation systems are always good for RPGs, but for Nintendo, it's usually the handhelds that have been great. And in this case, it just has Switch has a little bit of everything. It's kind of overwhelming. Switch just has so many RPGs. Like I already have 5 pre-ordered for next year. Just RPGs.
Which ones?
Sheeran the Wanderer, Sheeran 6, very niche game. 2 NIS America games. Eiyuden Chronicles I have pre-ordered physically. Paper Mario I actually can't pre-order yet. It's not up for pre-order yet, but I will. So there's already just a bunch for Switch, and it's supposed to be being phased out. And there's a bunch for PlayStation I want too. So there's already 10 games in 2014 I need to buy, or 2024 I need to buy, which is bad. So yeah, I mean, and then there's Dragon Quest next month for Switch, which is my last game of the year. After that, I'm just gonna play my backlog over the holidays. No
Pokemon DLC for you? Are you a Pokemon fan?
I haven't jumped into it, and to be honest, I was waiting for a performance patch that never came. So
we'll be old and gray by that time.
Yeah, so I beat the game. I just haven't had, there's been too much else to play. I haven't dived in, and then it kind of annoyed me where I think there was an edition where one of the DLCs was on cart in Japan, but not the other one. Oh, so cool. It's I want to wait until there's a complete edition, and then maybe I'll buy it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any RPGs, I mean, Pokemon's an RPG, not traditionally, I guess. Turn-based, yeah.
But it is an RPG. I mean, it really is. You level up.
It's like baby's first RPG.
Do you agree with that, Stealth?
I mean, it's as approachable or as complex as you want it to be, I guess.
Yeah.
I play it. I treat it like a single player game where you run through the single player story and do the side quests and that's it. Others really meticulously, kind of do everything with the stats of their Pokemon to make it
EVs, IVs, and
yeah. That's not where I'm at. So it can be as complex or as not complex as you want it to be.
Well, we know that Nintendo talked to Game Freak after Scarlet and Violet and how upset people were.
They patted them on the back, said, "You sold 20 million copies. Good job."
keep doing that. Do you think that we will see some change from that conversation, or is it like what Johnny said, that it's just, you think we'll see change?
I mean, I don't think we're going to see change for Scarlet and Violet, but I do think the next game might have a little bit more care put into it, because obviously now you're moving to PS4 level, system.
Yeah.
I think they need just a bigger team and more time.
Well, I can't remember if they made a statement about how they are going to not worry so much about their series and the cards that are coming out and focus on the games, because they have to get these games out around the IP and everything that's happening with it.
I don't recall a statement like that they would make. because they do know that it's a machine. You know,
right?
All this media has to feed into each other. I don't think they made that statement, but I wish they did.
Yeah.
You know, I do think when we do see like the next generation Pokemon game, you know, it's gonna have to really wow people.
I mean, I've loved new Pokemon Snap. I think that's the best that Pokemon has ever looked. I would love if we could get, something like that. And who that was Namco, right?
That was Namco.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, I really liked
Game Freak.
I really liked my time with Scarlet and Violet. I think that the concept was great with like the open world and the 3 different story paths that you could do. But I don't know. I think we can't keep letting them give us these poor quality products. I mean, I know it's hard. It's easier said than done because it's Pokemon. People are going to buy it no matter what. I'll be really interested to see how Detective Pikachu did. It probably didn't sell that well. It looks terrible.
Yeah, that wasn't made by Game Freak though, and so I'll give them a pass on that. Yeah, I mean, I like Scarlet and Violet a lot, but that just needed more time to really get it together because then, like, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 came out. When did Scarlet and Violet come out?
Last November. It was just a year ago.
Yeah.
It was a year ago. Okay, so Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was coming out around the same time, and we saw what could be done with large environments and things like that. So like even within Nintendo's own teams, like they just aren't cutting it technically, at least like technically. So yeah, that's definitely a story to like keep an eye on. Is like, what are they gonna do for like a PS4 level system?
Yeah, it's just upsetting because you see, like, we just got the trailer for Pokemon Concierge, and I mean, something like that it would be so unique to have. I think Arceus did really well, changing up the formula. It still had its performance issues, but it was a nice change of pace. So I don't know. I would love to see Pokemon improve, obviously. And I'm still attached to it. I think there's probably some nostalgia there where it's like,
no,
I don't want to buy what?
No nostalgia goggles on that.
Yeah, there's a ton of nostalgia because I just want them to succeed. And each game that they show, it's like, oh, this looks different. And then it's the same thing with a kind of new coat of paint. Voice acting, I think, is needed. It would be very nice to have. But I do think that Scarlet and Violet was an improvement as far as like storytelling, and all the characters were very likable. I didn't find one to be like really annoying or, and then the post game, which is where I feel Pokemon really like shows, is their post game. It's like you've got through all the stuff that you've done time and time again, but here's like the extra meat to it. And Area Zero was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I really like Scarlet and Violet. I even like Sword and Shield. It was just like it was hard to look past a lot of the technical issues with Scarlet and Violet. Mm-hmm. It was just not great in that regard. So I think they're on the right track, but I do think that when they do reveal, because Pokemon they usually have a Pokemon Day Presents in February, and usually that's where a lot of the big games are announced. So we'll see if they have one more thing for Switch, or if they're gonna not have anything next year, or just wait and keep developing in the background. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens, and it's only a couple months away.
Yeah, I wonder. When do you think, if we get a Switch 2 next year, when do we get it?
Switch 2?
Yeah.
I think we get it October, November.
That's interesting because I don't know who said. I'm pretty sure somebody said that it's like hard to launch a system around the holidays, and that's why. Maybe it's Kit and Chris. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. I'm sure from their perspective too. Just being in marketing, it's tough.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. At least at the very least, they aren't going to mention anything this year because they want Switch to keep selling. We probably will have a Nintendo Direct in February, and we'll see. They might just drop like a random tweet for like a showcase, and that's it. And we know. So it's kind of, it is hard to predict it, but like if I had to guess, like I think like they'll have Switch games through at least mid-year, and then we'll kind of see what happens. But look, I guess if it is going to launch anytime next year, they got to announce it pretty soon.
Yeah.
To like give it some time, but I don't think it's going to be this year.
Like I wonder if because when they announced the Switch, they had like the initial reveal in October, or they had that trailer in October, and then they had the full reveal in January, and then it came out in March.
Yeah.
I mean, I still think that's pretty tight. That's a very tight marketing schedule.
It worked well. They didn't have much choice because Wii U wasn't doing great.
Yeah, they're in a different position now, but I also do think us as Nintendo fans were kind of trained to just buy whatever they put out. So I think it will launch, no matter when they launch, and it'll do well. And then we'll still buy Paper Mario. And we'll still buy Princess Peach and everything coming out.
I'm not going to be surprised if Paper Mario is a game for both. And there's going to be a lot of games that are released on Switch and Switch 2. Just like that happened with PlayStation and 4 and 5. But yeah, I do think that a 3D Mario, especially if it's like a 10 out of 10, maybe one of the best games that all the reviewers have ever played, 3D Mario, like that's gonna get the asses in the seats, so to speak. That's gonna get people to buy it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, even like I'm looking forward to next year, even if it is a lot of Mario IP. We definitely have seen with the movie how well Mario Wonder has done, how well Mario Kart has done, how well Mario Kart Tour and Mario Run have done. So the fact that we're getting Mario and Donkey Kong and Princess Peach Showtime, that's the game I'm looking forward to the most, because I didn't even think that we were going to get another Peach game, or it's just nice to see her get her own spotlight, like it's in the theater setting, and I love that.
Yeah, the lineup for next year is definitely very Mario heavy right now.
Yeah.
Because of the movie mostly, I'm sure.
Yeah.
There's one non-Mario game and like 4 Mario games for next year, and that's it.
Yeah.
But at least we know what's kind of coming early on. We don't know what like the lineup looks like at all at the end, or at the halfway point.
Yeah.
So I think they will diversify a bit, but I think this is like very strategically Mario because of the movie and the holidays, and they even put that in their financial report. They had a whole slide saying like these are all the new Mario games that are coming. So that they're making a push because of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Now I'm thinking, we already have those games that we know about that are Mario, and then if they do release a Switch 2 and they launch a 3D Mario and maybe another Mario Kart, that's so much Mario in 1 year. That's like 6+ games. That might be too much.
It is, but like if the Mario game is like just a showstopper, no one's gonna care. If it's more Mario, and same with Mario Kart. Like it has to be a new Mario Kart. Like it can't be like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Ultimate Edition. It needs to be a new one at this point. So yeah, it's a lot of Mario, but like they all are in like different kind of genres. Like we have the puzzle game. Peach Showtime is like it's like a Luigi's Mansion kind of game. And I guess Luigi's Mansion 2 HD is the closest, and then we have Paper Mario, which is an RPG, and then we might have a 3D Mario and a racing game. So at least they're all different genres, so there's not a ton of overlap.
Yeah, they heard Cheesy said something a few weeks ago about how that Mario was underrepresented on the Nintendo Switch. This was like before.
Yeah,
I think this might have been before like Wonder was announced, and like.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that he was underrepresented. It was just like any new kind of Mario games, there's not a lot of like it's a lot of repeats. Like we have Mario Kart, we have Mario 3D World, but that was Wii U. We've had, and I don't know, like just when it comes to new Mario on the Switch, there hasn't been a lot.
Yeah, I like even I've said like I didn't think like the Mario lineup on Switch was like super strong. Like there's some really good games, but like I felt like it was lacking because we didn't have like a kind of like a new original 2D Mario. Obviously Mario Maker was that. The RPGs especially. Like I liked Origami King, but like 3DS had much better Mario and Luigi games.
Right.
So like I didn't feel like the Mario RPGs were a strength of Switch until like the Direct that kind of changed that. But yeah, I think like the Mario series on Switch is in like a really good place.
And we got the amazing Mario OLED. We have the amazing Mario OLED.
Yeah, but just the red OLED. But I do want to get your opinion on this real quick. On Directs, they have said that in the past, they said that they wanted to change the formula or maybe not have Directs going forward. And then when we were in the pandemic, we saw less Directs, obviously, because of the pandemic. And you have always been one to support the Directs and say they're coming even this summer or whatever. And I think I've even gone to bat on one of your tweets that's like, I don't know. I think they might be done. Like, do you see them doing any kind of change to the Direct or any way that we'll be getting game announcements?
I don't. I think the Directs work well. Fans like them and they deliver information. And, they have been like pretty consistent. Like, there's always one in Q1. Usually that kind of changes. It could be January, February, March, but it's Q1. There's always a Direct in June. And then there's always a Direct in September. And people fought me on that this year, saying, just because there's a 10-year pattern doesn't mean it's going to happen again. And of course, it happened again. Obviously patterns are meant to be broken, but this one hasn't yet. So usually they have 2 or 3 major Directs. They'll have some indie Directs. They'll have some Pokemon Presents. They'll have an individual game Direct. Some weird Directs like the Mario movie. There's probably going to be a Zelda movie Direct. And then that's it. It's like it's not that complicated what Nintendo does, and it's not that much of a surprise. And it works. It's quick. It delivers the information. Obviously the games sell well because of it. So yeah, I don't think there's going to be any kind of major change.
What's the difference between them doing their Directs and then just kind of drip feeding posts on Twitter, like those that didn't get into the Direct? Why do you think that they just make separate posts for them?
Well, they don't normally announce games separately. They did it for Everybody 1-2 Switch because they wanted that game to go away because they knew it sucked.
Right, yeah.
That's why they did that. They didn't include 1-2 Switch in any Directs because they announced it on Twitter quickly and then they didn't talk about it for a while.
Yeah, and I think it was like in the middle of the night too.
But most big games they announce in Directs, like most of them. Like there were some exceptions because the pandemic. Like I remember Origami King was announced in a tweet. Hyrule Warriors was announced in a tweet. Age of Calamity. I think Pikmin 3 Deluxe was announced in a tweet too. But that might have been around 2020 because of COVID. I would have to look up the dates.
Yeah.
But since then, like everything major is announced in a Direct.
Well, I mean, I think I've asked everything I possibly could ask you. And you have so much knowledge and insight, and it's just so nice to have somebody in the gaming space who is constantly keeping people updated. I don't know how you do it. It's honestly impressive. Anytime that there is an announcement, it's like you're on top of it.
Yeah, I focus on the key things that I care about, and that's Nintendo and RPGs. Obviously there's a lot of gaming news I don't cover, and I let people who are passionate about those things cover them. Yeah. And that's kind of how I approach it. It's like I'm passionate about Nintendo and RPGs, so that's what I talk about mostly.
Johnny, you got anything else?
No, it was awesome hearing your insights, and we'll be on the lookout for all your tweets, or what are they, posts now? Whatever.
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, I mean, it was a pleasure coming on, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at I'll still call it Twitter. I don't care. It's at Twitter at Stealth40k. I'm also on Blue Sky too. I don't post there yet, but Stealth40k there too. And then I'm on the other one. I'm on the Instagram one. I forgot the name already.
Oh, Threads.
But I'm on Threads. Yes, Threads. Yeah. I haven't used it in a while. I'm Stealth40k there too. So wherever you want to find me, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I'll have it in the show notes as well. So
cool. Johnny, where can people find you?
I'm Johnny But everywhere: Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and the Nintendo Powercast.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, and the Nintendo Powercast, CheezyC64, CheezyC64.
Shout out to Roy. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
No. Go ahead.
I said shout out. I was going to say shout out to Roy in the Netherlands. We're international superstars.